Hello and welcome to Cleaning Up the Mess. I'm Ira Mathur. We're very pleased to welcome on our show today the Honourable Vasant Bharat, the Minister of Food Production, Land and Marine Affairs. From an environmental point of view, Mr. Bharat's ministry deals with vital areas including loss of agricultural lands, agricultural chemical runoff, clearing of forest and swamps, hunting and monitoring our rivers and seas. On this show recently, UB scientist Dr. Azad Mohammed revealed that plastics, remember we dump up to 50 million plastic bottles every month, styrofoam, paper and electronics, can generate some of the deadliest toxins ever studied. He also reminded us that Beetham, our largest dump, is located on the northern edge of the Caroni Swamp, the largest mangrove swamp in Trinidad. This means that toxins from the dump can easily enter the swamp, infect our water table and our produce. Doctors have indicated also that rising rates of cancer in this country are related to toxins in the cocktail of pesticides used by our farmers. In this context, Minister Bharat, I would like to ask you, the agricultural industry is a large contributor of poisons in our water and our food. Does the ministry know what cocktail goes into growing our food?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I want to also say that in the introduction you talked about forestry, which unfortunately no longer falls under the Ministry of Food Production, Land and Marine Affairs. It now falls under Housing and the Environment. And I know that you've previously spoken with Dr. Mulilal on this very same program.
Yes.
Yes, you're quite right. There are a large number of pesticides used in agriculture. Pesticides and the importation of pesticides are controlled by the Pesticides Control Board that determines what comes in and what doesn't, depending on the classification. And you may know that we've got several classes of pesticides in Trinidad and Tobago, depending on, varying from the most potent, which is class 1, down to 2, 3, 4, and then U, which is unclassified. But generally speaking, the pesticides used in agriculture are the least risky ones, and they're classified under class 4 and U, and they're the recommended ones.
But sorry to interrupt you, but what scientists are saying is that a lot of people, farmers, basically put on a lot of chemicals on the produce and just hope for the best, and actually it's not controlled.
Yeah, you're quite right. There is little control in terms of the usage. There's control in terms of the importation of it, but there's little control over the usage. And in fact, the Ministry of Food Production has embarked recently on a massive campaign to educate farmers as to the use and the proper use of pesticides and to the dangers, of course, of pesticides. We have been to some farms where they're actually spraying the day before harvest, and quite honestly, I mean, that's a dangerous practice, because in a lot of cases the produce goes directly to market. So the ministry has launched an intensive campaign to educate farmers as to the proper use of pesticides, both from an economic perspective, of course, because if you use too much pesticides, there is a cost factor involved for the farmer, but of course there's a health risk as well.
Yes, because environmentalists are suggesting that our produce does not meet international standards, and that actually, you know, our vegetables are covered in pesticides, and it could be causing cancer and all kinds of diseases in our people.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say that it doesn't meet international standards, because, of course, there are a lot of produce being exported out of Trinidad and Tobago, predominantly to the ethnic markets in New York and in the United Kingdom. So I wouldn't go as far as to say that we don't meet international standards. We do.
But how do you know that? If you've not tested, how do you know that you meet international standards?
The very fact that the products and the produce that are arriving in foreign shores would have to be accompanied by phytosanitary certificates, which will effectively indicate the levels of toxins and the level of pesticides used in the production of the produce.
So it's not as dangerous as we think. Let's talk about the produce being grown by illegal farmers, farmers who are squatting illegally. How can this be addressed so that we can ensure that they are farming sustainably?
From the 1st of January 2011, all farmers who wish to access incentives that are provided by the government, including the ability to access loans from the ADB, which would be at preferential rates, have to be registered on a farmers database created by the ministry. So we will be in a better position, more so than we are today, to be able to control, first of all, what farmers produce, and secondly, where they're producing it, and thirdly, the inputs that go into it in terms of fertilizers and so on. Plus, of course, we will have a better handle on being able to clearly understand geographically where they're based so that we can implement farming techniques in terms of education to them. And that's one of the biggest issues we've got, being able to inculcate in farmers good farming, good farm practice. It's one of the challenges that we faced over the years, but we're getting there.
I think the dream would be that you can go to a marketplace, do a test on, pick up a cauliflower or pick up, any type of vegetable or fruit then and test it and find out whether this is, how much toxins does this particular cauliflower have? How much toxins are we eating in our tomatoes?
Yeah, but you see, what's got to happen is that both the regulatory agencies and the consumer has to drive that process. And when I say that, I mean, obviously, we've got to ensure that we enforce the laws. But secondly, the consumer themselves have to also demand and insist that their produce comes from certain areas and is grown under certain conditions. And we've got to have more and more voices publicly stating that we must work within certain tolerances. As an example, as part of the consultative process that my ministry has gone through over the last 4 months, we have met with many people along what I call the value chain. So what we're trying to do is to put, not just get farmers to grow more food, but we're trying to put those people who are involved in the process, the restaurateurs, the hoteliers, the tourists, we're trying to link them with the farmers directly and get them to insist on a certain quality of product that they will have delivered to them on a daily basis. That way, we can then go back to the farmer and say, right, the Hilton wants this, or the Holiday Inn wants this, or the Hyatt wants this, or this restaurant wants this, but they want it in this format, or they want it with this percentage of pesticides, they want it grown organically, and so we can cater specifically for certain markets from the farmers, and the farmers will know that their livelihood depends on being able to produce that quality of product consistently for the markets that we've created for them.
Will there be any penalties for farmers who just kind of throw a cocktail of toxins onto our fruit and vegetables?
Yes, eventually there will be, because what will happen is that because they'd be registered on our database, we would know what they're up to, and we will be in a position to deny them certain incentives that they're currently accessing.
And presumably you'll have inspectors going out to various farms and testing it.
That's the only way we can accomplish this task, yes.
Okay, well, we need to take a short break. As you watch, I want to remind you to send in your comments and suggestions to Cleaning Up the Mess at guardian.co.tt. This is an environmental special on CNC3. We'll be right back.